Okay, we're recording.
Okay. So, Mom, tell us about yourself. When you were born, where you were born, and a little bit about your childhood.
Uh, Born in Montague, Massachusetts, on a farm, and my mother,
What date?
the date, let me see, July 11th, 1923. Wow.
At what time of the day? Do you know?
I think it was in the about 3 in the afternoon. My mother was out in the field working, and she decided that she was going to have that baby, so she came into the house, and before I knew it, I was born. So that was very, very quick. It didn't she didn't have to worry too much. She didn't suffer. Poor thing. She was a wonderful mother, and we had a nice childhood. I remember living in this old house where we had a attic upstairs on the third floor, and the attic had one trunk full of real old papers tied with a ribbon, and we used to live in an old Indian fort, and these papers must have been very, very valuable, and we never checked into it, but I went snooping up there one time and I found them, and by the time anybody went to get them, check them out, the house burned, so everything burnt with it. So that was sad on my part, because I was curious as to what those bundles of papers were, because we lived in an old Indian fort, so they had to be some real military papers in there.
Right.
Yeah, and that was sad. And then I went into the first grade, and
Where did you live after the house burnt? What happened?
well, after the house burned, we stayed with my aunt for 3 weeks until we found an apartment, a house in Montague, right on the Sawmill River. And my brother Beaver was born that August. The house burned March 13th, 1932, I believe. And so Beaver was born August 13th that same year. And we lived in that rented house up by the Sawmill River in Montague. And we had French neighbors. They were nice people, and we had a wonderful summer there all through the springtime, in summer, and then in August my brother Beaver was born, August 13th, and that September, then the following September, our house was being built by the American Legion men, the club, and it was all donated materials, and we decided that they were get through building it in September, and that's when we went and had my Beaver's christening. That same summer.
Where did they build the new house?
They built a new house on the premises, on the same premises. It was a 2-story house, 3-story house with an attic. It was a beautiful house, and it was all modern, as modern as you could get. We had electricity with it, where other neighbors didn't have any electricity, and we had a street light in front of the house, and we used to play outdoors under the light. It was wonderful, and we were really privileged because we were first ones in that area to have electricity. And by the way, when my house burned, I was in the second grade, and this was in the morning, and my teacher came to me and she said, Wanda, your house just got burned, and you are not allowed to go on the bus. You have to wait outside. Somebody will wait for you and take you to your aunt's house. That's where you're going to live from now on. Well, I started to cry naturally. So she put her arms around me and she comforted me, and it was great. And then I remembered the first time I ever got a Christmas gift when my father took us to the American Legion Children's Christmas Party, and it was the first time I ever got a Christmas gift, and it burned in the fire. I lost it. My first Christmas gift I ever got, and it burned in the fire. I think I was crying more about losing the gift than I was about losing the house, because the house was old. And then from there on, went through all the schools, get on the school bus. That was a...
Well, you told us about a good teacher that you had, but did you have a teacher that gave you a what for something you might have done?
Oh, well, I haven't come to that sixth grade yet.
Oh, okay.
No, but I used to board the school team. It was a wagon with curtains on the side, and it was drawn by 2 horses, and that's how we used to go to school. In the wintertime, it was so cold, so we used to run behind there to keep warm, because we didn't dare sit, we'd freeze. So we used to run to school halfway in the wintertime, and in the springtime it was wonderful. And then, oh yeah, in the 6th grade, I was always a good student. But the teacher walked out of the classroom one day, and everybody was raising Cain when I wasn't about to, but somebody went and threw a spitball on my desk, and it landed on my desk, and I didn't like it there, so I went and picked it up and I threw it, and as I threw it, the teacher just walked into the room. Perfect timing. And she scolded me, and she kept me after school. And I was in the 6th grade, and I had to walk a mile home from school because she kept me in, and she just kept me sitting there. I didn't do anything, just sat there for about half an hour. I missed my bus and then my school team, and I had to walk home. And I didn't dare tell my mother because, you'd catch it when you got home. So I just pretended that nothing happened. And then that was the 6th grade. In the 7th and 8th grade, it was very good. I got handwriting certificates for good penmanship. And then I left the 8th grade, went into high school. And I loved high school. I took up home ec and accounting, French, a little of everything. And I was a good student, and we'd have to drive 5 miles on the bus to go to high school. And that was fine. I had made a lot of friends. I got to be 16 years of age, and my father says, "You've got to quit and get a job. You can't go to school anymore." So I cried naturally. I loved school. And then I went to the town office, applied for work, and there was no work anywhere. So I did do housework for a lady who was very asthmatic by the name of Esther Bovian, and she was a lovely lady. And I learned a lot from her. And her children were still going to school, so when her children would come home from school, I would look at their books and see what they were studying. So I would kind of help them along, so I was still
Learning.
learning a little bit from them. And then as time went on, I got to be 17 years old, and I went did housework for this lady in Greenfield. I lived there. I stayed there for a year. And she was an elderly lady who was handicapped, and I used to help her a lot. And she made me go into join the girls' club, and I did join the girls' club, and I loved that. I made a lot of friends, and I used to do her shopping for her, so I knew how to save money, how to buy vegetables, and all. I knew a lot of economics there. And then when, let's see, that's 16, 18, oh yeah, I got to be 18 years of age. I said, well, this is it. I'm of age. So I went and applied for work, and I got a job at the Millers Falls Tool Company. I was very, very lucky because the war had just broken out in 42, no, in 41, December 7th, 41, Pearl Harbor. And so then I went to work shortly after that, and I ran 7 milling machines making gears, and I was making $100 a week from the 17 that I used to get doing housework. So I was rich, and I said, well, I'm going to buy myself a car, I'm going to get my driver's license, and I'm going to have fun. And in the meantime, Frank Kosmeskis was driving the defense workers to the shop every day, and he drove for a month, and then his younger brother took over, whose name was Alfred, and he was a good-looking guy, and I kind of caught his eye. He caught my eye too, I guess. And so I used to sit way in the back of the school bus, and then we would get closer to, as I got to know him more, I sat closer and closer to the front of the bus, and before I knew it, he'd catch my eye in the rearview mirror. We'd look at each other, and then he happened to get up nerve, and he asked me for a date. So I says, I don't know about that. This was on a Friday. Saturday morning, he had to take his car and take the workers to work because they didn't have enough workers to take the bus. So he would take his car and pick up 3 workers. So I was the first one he picked up because I lived near his, about 1.5 miles from his house. And then we picked up 2 more people up street, and then we drove to Miller's Falls, to Irving, to the shop. And then he let them off, and he locked my side of the door, and he says, "Are you want to go out tonight?" And I says, "You gotta be kidding me." And he wouldn't let me out unless I said yes. So I said, "It's 5 minutes of 7, and I have to get that time clock before 7 o'clock. I've got to hit that ticket in there." So he unlocked the door, and he says, "Okay." I says, "Okay, well, I'll go out with you tonight." So that was our first date, and I made it that night. And Saturday you can't dance in Massachusetts, so he wanted to go dancing, so we went to Connecticut to dance. And that was our first date, and we had a wonderful time. He had his friend with him and another couple. So on the way up, we drove up. He drove his 38 beautiful black Oldsmobile we had, a four-door, it was a gorgeous car. So he drove on the way to Connecticut to Lake Compounds, and we danced to Ray Henry's music. It was wonderful. And then coming home, he took the back seat and he let his friend drive us home with his friend. So that was the beginning of our friendship. And then we dated for a whole year, all year long. We hiked up Mount Toby, and we went roller skating to the Gables in South Deerfield, and we did ice skating at the Whately Glen, and we just did everything. We had a wonderful, wonderful courtship. And then he decided that it was time for the engagement ring, so on his way to his sister's house in Montague City, he stopped on the side of the road and he presented me with my diamond. And I said yes. And then we drove to his sister's house and we celebrated there for my engagement. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And that was in the summer. And no, that was in the the summer of '43. And then we planned our wedding for September 4th, that shortly after. We had to, because with a war on, food wasn't available, nothing was really available. It was really hard going. So we decided we were going to get married. We planned a wedding at the house. It wasn't much of a wedding. It was very small. But food was hard to get, so Aunt Catherine, dear Lord, she was a blessing. She ran a store in Worcester. That was Alfred's sister-in-law. So she ran the store in Worcester. She brought us meat and different food that we couldn't buy otherwise, and we didn't have the food stamps for it, so she supplied us with a good amount of the meal, and it was wonderful. Went on our honeymoon to New York City. Went on top of the Statue of Liberty, went right into the light, as high as you could go, and went to see all the tourist areas in New York, the museums, and went to the ball game, see the Yankees. No, they weren't the Yankees. The
Brooklyn Dodgers?
I don't know if the Brooklyn Dodgers or another.
New York Giants.
Pardon me?
New York Giants.
Giants, yes, the Giants. And who should be, well, we were there with Frank Titterton, who was a friend of Alfred's brother. And he was a marathon runner. That Frank was a wonderful, wonderful man. And he came with us and he says, wait a minute, he says, I see Barney Ross sitting over there. He says, you gotta go get his autograph. I didn't know who Barney Ross was. And so anyway, I got his autograph, and Frank was so excited because I got his autograph, and he says, this is gonna be worth money someday for you. So later on we came home, and Frank was glad that I got the autograph. And that was written on the score sheet in the Boston, the Giants score sheet. I still have it to this day. The Barney Ross. And later on, when as I got older, I found out who Barney Ross was. He was a wrestler. And years ago, in the 1920s, I think, or 30s or something. And he was old when I met him. And it was very, very exciting. And well, I don't know, that's about all I remember from that. And then there's so many things that happened where after we got married, or Roberta was born while we lived with our sister Millie. She was born, and then 6 years later, no, 5 years later, Beverly was born in Bridgeport. And then we moved back to Montague, and then I had another child. Donna was born in November of 51. And Bev was born in Bridgeport in 1950. Roberta was born in 1944. Bev was born in 1950. Donna in 1951. Craig in 1952. And Tom in 1954. And Loanne in 1955 in July. And then it was peace and quiet for quite a few years. We had a wonderful time growing up with the kids. I loved every minute of it. Growing up with them, it was fun. And then I guess that was when we lived in Millers. And then from Millers Falls, we lived there 30 years. And after 30 years, we sold the house, moved to Winchester.
You forgot a child.
Pardon?
You forgot a child. Lynn.
Oh, my Lynn, yes. That's right. We were still living in Millers when Lynn was born. She was born in 1964. Yeah, 1964. Luann was born in 55 and Lynn in 64. And I thought that I was having menopause, and it just happened not to be so. And Dr. Thomas told me, he said, "Don't cry." He says, "My mother had me when she was 48, and you're only 42." But she turned out to be a smart little girl, and she was cute. And she lived at home with us in Millers after all the kids were gone and married. She was home alone with us for quite a few years. And then, let's see, what year was that? 64. She went to GCC, and the year that Bev died. Yeah, Bev died in November of 1979. And Lynn was in high school at that time, and she had a very difficult time. And then she went to GCC for 2 years, and then went to visit Luann in Chicago, and she moved to Chicago and lived with Luann for a couple of years. And from there she got married in Chicago, and we went to a lovely wedding she had. And I think Roberta and Donna and Luann stood up for her. And Tom and Uncle Frank and us went to the wedding. That was a nice, those are nice.
Nikki and Paul were there too.
Pardon?
Nikki and Paul were there too.
Yeah, oh yes, Nikki and
Yeah.
Paul, yes. Nikki was,
In charge of the guest book.
she's how old was she?
I think there's 14.
14, I know she was a teenager, yeah. And we had fun, even staying in the apartments, and it was great. And then from there on, let's see, we were,
Then the grandchildren started coming.
oh my goodness. That's right. Nikki was born in 74.
5.
75. She was born in 75. And then, my goodness, we had to wait quite a while before we had other grandchildren, didn't we?
Yes.
Who else?
Chris, Scott, oh, Carl. Carl and Scott
Oh,
were born on
Carl.
the same day.
Yeah, Carl and Scott were born the same day, September 14th. Oh, I forgot what year that was.
Don't look at me.
I have everything written
And then came,
at home. I didn't bring any dates with me. It's all up here.
and then